Hi, everyone. Good morning. Oh, well, it's morning for me. I'm in mountain time. I guess if you're in California, it's still morning. Um, East Coast is afternoon. So good to see you all. It's just gonna go over to the grid so I can see. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're before we get started today, we are just getting everybody on the line, and we're excited to have an hour with you this morning or afternoon. I keep forgetting that. If you'd like, go ahead and put in your. I like to have a really active chat in my webinars, so I like to know that you're there because I can't necessarily see all of your faces. So if you want to go ahead and just put in your name, where you're from, maybe what the weather's doing. It has been freezing here in Colorado, and the last few days have been absolutely gorgeous. Like, I think spring is actually in sight here. So let me know where you're from and what's going on in your neck of the woods. Also, if you can turn on your video, that's always awesome for a presenter to be able to see faces. So we love to do that if possible. We understand if you are not able to do that. Okay, we've got Rhonda from LA, windy and beautiful. Okay, Rosemary, San Diego, sunny. Uh, Joanna. Oh, whoa, that just skipped. Beautiful weather in California, Carmel. Okay. Rita in Cleveland, Ohio, cold and rainy. All right, Rita. Hopefully I can send some of this Colorado sunshine your way in the next couple days. Marion, California. Zach from Virginia, cloudy and 60s. Oh, Helena, great to see you. Oh, she's got snowfall where she's at in Thunder Bay today. New York City, Ontario. Awesome. It's so exciting to see that we can all learn together and join from so many different parts of the US. So great to have you guys here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to learn a little bit about mastering your time here with Studio Designer.
All right. Well, hi again and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining us for today's Work of Design Live webinar, which is presented by Studio Designer. The Work of Design Live webinar series is dedicated to sharing knowledge, tools, and best practices. Our webinars feature industry leading experts that are passionate about helping designers succeed in the business of design. My name is Alexia. I'm calling from currently very sunny San Francisco, and I'm on the marketing team here at Studio Designer. And today we're thrilled to have Erin Weir, the co-founder of Pearl Collective. Pearl Collective is a renowned coaching and consulting firm dedicated to helping designers and firms achieve financial success and business growth. With expertise in strategic planning, leadership, and productivity, Erin will share expert strategies on how smarter time management can help you increase profits and take control of your business. If you've ever felt like there simply are just not enough hours in the day, then this session is for you. Erin's going to walk us through techniques to help you prioritize effectively, eliminate time wasters, and make every moment count. As a quick reminder, we will have time for a Q&A at the end, so please drop your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat at any time. And don't worry if you need to step away, this session is being recorded and will be sent to all registrants afterwards. Please just look out for an email from Studio Designer. It's going to be a really valuable session, so let's jump in. Erin, back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexia. So again, I'm Erin Weir, as co-founder of Pearl Collective. I'm deeply committed to transforming the world of the business in interior design. And so here at Pearl Collective, we're proudly recognized as the premier business coaching firm for interior designers in the States. And our success lies in the unique blend of creativity, strategy, and business acumen that we bring to our clients. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Super excited to be here today with you all. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about becoming aware of how you spend your time. Billing and tracking time is essential to the success of your business. The cost of interruptions. Time blocking actually equals freedom, and finding the leaks. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started with becoming aware of how you spend your time. So I love this quote: human time and attention is our most valuable asset. So we must first become aware of how we're spending our time so that we can better understand how to save it and be more profitable with that time. So does everybody have one of these? cell phone with you? I'm sure you do. Go ahead and pull that out. And if you've got an iPhone, go over to your settings. And I keep looking at my phone. Go over to your settings and click on screen time, click on daily average, and see all of your app and website activity. You should have an hour number there, or minutes, hopefully, of how much time you're spending on your phone each week. And if you're on a Samsung, you're going to go to settings. You'll go to digital well-being and parental controls, I believe, and then go over to screen time. So if you'd like, go ahead and if you want to, put in how many hours or how much time you're spending on your phone each week. Super interesting to think about. So I actually did a podcast with Rob Kresak called Breaking Your Smartphone Addiction. It's over on, if you go to thepearlcollective.com, it's over in our podcast tab. And it is really worth a listen. He really worked with me on how much time are you actually spending on that device and how can you get that time back, right? So by setting up rules and boundaries around the usage of your time, and starting to just cut back even by an hour a day of how much you're using your phone. I mean, I have to use Instagram for work, but I also like to use Instagram for myself too, right? And catch up with all of my friends and my colleagues. And so, how much time am I spending on that? Am I spending 3 hours a day? Am I spending 45 minutes a day? That adds up big time. So, if you could just eliminate 1 hour of screen time per day, you would gain back a 7-hour workday. Think about that. A whole day, if we could just take one of those hours and dedicate it back to something else that we want to be doing in our life. So that could be um, having more time, having 7 more hours of billable time for your business. It could be 7 hours to be able to work on a meaningful project, exercising, or spending more time with your family and friends. Let's see, we've got a few people that are putting it over in the chat here. Tabitha, 2 hours a day. That's pretty good, actually, Tabitha. I've seen a lot higher. I think when I went through with Rob, I was at like maybe 4 hours a day. I hate to admit it, because it just adds up, right? You're over on Instagram, you're checking email. Maybe you've got an app that you're using for different things, like you're tracking your food, you're tracking your time. Maybe you like to watch those YouTube videos, right? Let's see, Rhonda, it's showing an hour and 25 minutes, but I think that's just today so far. Yikes. Okay, so if that's just today, think about that. Like, how did you use that time? And usually it does kind of break out and show you like, oh, you're spending an hour and 25 minutes on Instagram each day, or you're spending that in email each day. And that could be because you're on the go. Johanna, or Joe, I'm trying to say your name right. Johanna, I think is 2 hours and 57 minutes. Anne Marie, 2 hours and 17. Okay. So Brooke, like you're already got over 2 hours in today, right? And the day is still pretty young. So it's just good to have an awareness of how you're using your time, specifically on just one of the devices that can completely distract us. And so that you can start setting up rules and boundaries around how you're gonna use your devices, and how you can start cutting back that hour a day. So that's just a kind of a fun way to get started here in thinking about how we're using our time. In my podcast with Rob that you guys should go check out. It was a couple of summers ago, so you might have to dig a little bit deeper. Actually, I can put that link to that podcast over in the chat for the hosts to be able to share with you guys. But it is really great. And he talks about how even like iPhone, like they find ways to make your phone brighter during certain parts of the day, right? So it's more attractive and it lights up and it wants to be on all the time so that you're like, ooh, pretty device. Like I want to go like look at you. I want to do more things with you. I want to be looking at things. So oh, Libby, 6 hours. Okay. So, I mean, it's real, right? So just having that gut check of, okay, how could I find that extra hour a day to get back a 7-hour workday into my life, or 7 hours of something that you're enjoying. Okay. So next up, we're going to go into talking about billing and tracking time is essential to the success of your business. So who here tracks their time spent in their business? I'd love to see a show of hands, but I actually can't see all of your faces. So if you want to just put that over into the chat, I'd love to know who here tracks their time spent in their business. Um, Interior designers make money in two ways. We bill for our time and we bill for product. Okay. So usually it's about 20 to 40% of the sales in time and about 60 to 80% of sales in product. Okay, so we've got several people saying that they do. Candace says project time tracking, but otherwise no. I don't track my time as I needed a break after 25 years of working in firms, but I'll get back at it. Yeah, so it's really important to know how you're using your time and how long it takes to do certain tasks or to do certain parts of your projects. Um, and the business that I'm in is we're not interior designers. We don't necessarily have billable time. Our coaches have billable time, but the rest of our team members don't. So we've been doing a new initiative inside of our business to really track our time to see where it's being spent. And as VP of Sales and Marketing, it's been really interesting to look at the categories of what is taking so much of my time throughout the day. Of course, I'm in a lot of meetings. I'm in a lot of different strategy and problem solving sessions. But it's really interesting of like there's kind of like maybe a little bit more marketing than like sales time that's happening. And so I'm starting to try to get that a little more evened out so that both of those buckets that I'm a part of in our business are both equally getting Erin's attention. Okay, so next up we've got, so once we bring in those sales and we've got revenue, so which is coming from our product sales and time, the money in we have to pay out, right? We've got to be able to pay out overhead, which is usually 35 to 45%. We've got cost of goods sold, which is usually 45 to 55%. And then what's left over there is about anywhere from usually 10 to 20%, which is considered the profit category. And of that profit category, you've got to set aside 33% for taxes. You got to set aside 33% of that for reserves. And then the remainder is actual profit in your business. So it just goes to show that daily time tracking is really essential and really should be required inside of your firm for you to understand how long it takes you to do things, how profitable you are with your time, and the utilization rate for your team members. So as far as a best practice goes, time tracking really should be reviewed each week on your team. And hours should be due, like what I know has worked so well. Trust me, I've been in a ton of time billing conversations with designers. I land in those all the time in our VIP experiences and with our boardroom members. And everybody does it a different way. But by having a standard of hours being due by the end of Friday, so that you can pull a report on Monday. And then on that Monday morning weekly kind of client status meeting, you can go through and really look at the billable hours versus the goal for the week and the project hours versus the budget. And so by having someone on your team be accountable for pulling this report and bringing it to the team, it's going to really help you see what items can be delegated and also see if hours need to be added. So it might be that you're seeing like, hey, we've got some time here of items that the senior designer doesn't necessarily need to be doing, but the junior designer could be doing at a lower billable rate. So it's really important to take a look at that so that you're on track in your time and you don't have that scope creep of time. Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about interruptions. This is just kind of a cute little cartoon that I found here that kind of shows what happens, right? Like he's over here like really putting like this whole project together, really making like magic happen. And then he has one person say, "Hey, do you have a sec?" And poof, like all of his thought process goes away, right? So then he goes and deals with that and comes back to his work and he's like, "What was I even doing?" Right? So on average, we actually experience about one interruption every 8 minutes, or approximately 6 to 7 interruptions per hour. Okay. And in an 8 hour day, that actually totals around 50 to 60 interruptions in the day. So the average interruption takes approximately 5 minutes to go solve that problem. And then once that you come back from that interruption, statistics tell us that it takes between 5 to 20 minutes to actually get back to the level of concentration that we were at prior to that disruption. So we can easily, as you can tell, when we feel like you've had that day of like just full of fire drills, we can easily spend our entire day on just interruptions, crises, putting out fires, and really getting nothing done that we actually plan to accomplish. So of course we cannot and would not want to eliminate all interruptions in our day, but we can reduce them and take control of our time more effectively. So, some studies actually say that interruptions cost up to 6 hours per day within a company. And as the leader, as the CEO of your company, you can potentially be interrupted up to 7 times per hour. So, I want to do a little exercise here. And what I'll do is I will go through this and then maybe I'll post it over in the chat, Alexia, so that everybody has the steps for this. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down, get a piece of paper out, or you can put this in the notes on your phone. Back to using your phone again. How many interruptions do you typically get a day? Just write a number down. Is it 20? Is it 40? Is it 5? Okay. And then multiply that by 5 minutes, by 5 for the minutes, okay? So write down how many interruptions you get a day and then multiply that 5 for the minutes. Then we're going to divide that by 60, which is how many minutes there are in hours of the day. Does everybody have a number there? You want to go ahead and put in your number of that you're coming up with as far as interruptions. So interruptions multiplied by 5 divided by 60. And next we're going to multiply that by 250, okay? And that's the number of working days a year. So assuming 50 working weeks, okay? 50 working weeks of the year times 5 days. That's how we get that 250. Now here's the kicker. I want you to take that number and I want you to multiply it by your hourly rate. Go ahead and put those numbers in the chat. How much are your interruptions costing you for the year? And I've seen some big numbers. Okay, thank you, Alexia, for posting that. So there's the little exercise there. So interruptions multiplied by 5 divided by 60 multiplied by 250, and then multiply that by your hourly rate. I'd love to see some numbers coming in from you guys on how much money are you leaving on the table in a year with interruptions. And again, I've seen some big numbers like, oh, like that's a mega vacation, right? That could pay off debt. That could take me to Europe and back. Rhonda, okay, $18,000. You can do a lot with $18,000, right? Yeah, I'm sure you and I could go on an amazing trip together. Or we can invest in something for our business. Okay, Marion, 32,000. That's a big one. Tabitha, 41. Oh, Candace, girl, $208,000. Holy moly. Eileen, 46,000. Johanna, 50. Okay, these are big numbers, guys. That's a lot of money. You can do a lot with that amount of time and money that you're just spending on interruptions in your business. So I would, oh, there, 62,000. Okay. Or maybe $62. I'm thinking it's probably 62,000. Okay. So let's think about a couple things here. Can you implement some quiet time in your office to avoid being interrupted as much? Could you work from home for a few hours in the morning before to really have complete silence and to be able to work with no distractions before walking into your office that can be somewhat chaotic? Another one that I love to look at is, can you teach your employees to come to you, not just with problems, but to come to you with, here's the problem and here's 3 solutions that I've already thought of. Empower them, right? to come with 3 possible solutions and then what they think that best option is and why. So if you can have time set aside on your calendar for this is when I'm available to answer questions, help problem solve, and then you're empowering your people to always come to you with not just the problems, but already thinking through solutions. That's already gonna help you streamline those interruptions. Okay, Eileen, yes, shut the door and set a timer. Love it. Okay, Brooke, you're at 50K. All right, those are big numbers, guys. I'm excited to see like how your life changes when you get those dollars back from the different interruptions that we have. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about time blocking. Time blocking really does equal freedom. I fought this for a long time in my life. I was like, it's not going to help me with anything. I had a point in my life where I went through a divorce and had my children only half of the time. And that became very black and white to me of how I was going to spend my time. So I could have the most available time with them. And I could also still have the most available time to work my magic that I do in our business. So the definition of time blocking or time chunking is a productivity method that divides a period of time, usually a single day, into predefined units of time that you assign specific tasks to each unit. So in practice, you divide a working day or even a week into several blocks of time, each with their own to-do items. Okay. So it sounds just like it is. You're going to block off a portion of your day with a specific start and end time. So you'll see here in this visual, you've got the focus time blocking, right? From 8 to 10, you're working on something. From 10 to 12, you're working on another project. From 12 to 2, you've got 2 hours to work on that project. Whereas distracted multitasking is, it might be 8:45 to 9:15. It might be, 10:45 to 11, where you don't have solid periods of time to really focus and get into deep work to be able to get the most efficient use out of your time. So the ingredients for time blocking are pretty simple, okay? A calendar or a schedule. Digital tools like Google Calendar offers more flexibility than a paper. I like to have a paper calendar up that I can just see the big items that are coming up, right? Like I'm headed to Design Edge in Scottsdale. I've got my daughter's first high school soccer game coming up, and we've got some birthdays to celebrate. I like to see kind of like the big things that are happening on my paper calendar that's on my wall. However, in my Google Calendar, I have each day blocked to what I need to accomplish that day. Anywhere from direct report meetings to meeting with the owner of our company for strategy sessions to our 3-day VIP experiences that we do with interior design business owners. So I would say that, if we go back to the idea of a digital calendar, like a Google Calendar, it really kind of creates more flexibility as far as being able to reshuffling blocks around to move them around on your calendar to make it kind of fast and easy. It's also more convenient when you're starting to duplicate your blocks and make blocks reoccurring and link and being able to link items inside of blocks to files or apps. Okay. So I actually put together each year what my perfect week looks like. Now we know that's not going to happen all the time, but here's what my perfect week looks like. Here's the time that I have for these projects. On Mondays, these are the meetings I have for these specific reasons, and here's the projects that I'm working on. And I go through and I kind of put together my perfect week. And then there's weeks that I have to adapt, but that time blocking actually creates a lot of freedom because I'm getting those tasks done. And I also now have time to, I don't know, go to a soccer game, enjoy my children a little bit more, make dinner at a decent time in my day. So what you're going to want to do to get started with time blocking, aside from figuring out what calendar you use, is to determine your key tasks and schedule those time blocks. Okay. So we want to, as designers, we want to look at billable time, right? When are the days that we are doing that client work that is billable? When are the time periods and the days that we might be having a vendor appointment or being offsite or, working on marketing, right? Those are all things that we have to do in our week, but if you can block those times off, it will actually give you dedicated time for that. So then you're going to schedule chunks of time with the same task over and over. Okay. So what we want to think about is right brain activities versus left brain activities. So right brain activities are imagination, holistic thinking, arts, rhythm, daydreaming, creativity, right? Left sided of the brain activities are more logic, sequencing, linear thinking, facts, finances of business, right? So I love the quote, make time, not a list of tasks. So by having time on your calendar, time blocks on your calendar in a shared calendar, it's also going to allow your team to be able to see who's working on what and when you have open time to meet or help them with a project. So if you were to look at this focused time blocking here, and maybe 8 to 10 you're working on the Smith residence and that's available time, you're available to your team from 10 to 12 for meetings, problem solving, just whatever kind of distractions are coming in, chaos is coming in. And then from 12 to 2 you're back to that focused time of billing out for another client. That could be really valuable as an employee to be able to see, like, oh, okay, like I always know that I've got, I can schedule a time with her between 10 and 12 to be able to ask my questions and get some answers. So that's one way to look at it. You can also add notes to calendar entries about the amount of time used or for what project and a simple list of tasks complete. The owner of our business, Gail Doby, she has time blocked forever. Like I literally could go back in our Google Calendar to July 7th of 2007 to see what she was doing. And it's kind of like the game of Clue, like she was not in the red room with the candlestick. I know exactly what she was doing on that day because she blocks her time so well. And so if we had this block of time from 8 to 10 for the Smith residence that's up on the screen, I could go and inside of that calendar entry and just make some notes like, I reviewed drawings, met with senior designer on selections, and we also contacted the contractor on XYZ. So that when I then go back to, I'm working on my time billing, I actually have some information of how I spent my time during that time block. So time blocking isn't new. The practice goes back centuries. Kathleen, I love that you love time blocking. You're my girl. You're like the most organized person I know. I love that about you and that you're here learning more about this. So Benjamin Franklin actually was one of the early pioneers, and he stuck to a strict time blocking routine or schedule. And he divided his day into several large blocks of time for work. Okay, planning, reading, and sleeping. Those are his 4 categories. Gosh, I wish that I only had those 4 categories to worry about, but much has changed since then. And today, digital devices are everywhere. We've got watches that are dinging and distracting us with text messages or telling us that we need to stand up, to phones in our pockets. And they all come with calendars, making time blocking easier than ever. So as much as those can be a distraction, they can also be a great tool to help you stay on track with how you're spending your time. And it's no surprise that several of the top performers and managers of large companies use time blocking as a method today for their efficiencies. So Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter, he's an advocate of the technique, saying, on Monday, I focus on management and running the company. On Tuesday, I focus on product. Wednesday is focused on marketing, communications, and growth. Thursday is focused on developers and partnerships, and Friday is focused on the company and the culture recruiting. Saturday, I take off. I like to take a hike. And Sunday, I use for reflection, feedback, and strategy and getting ready for the next week. Author Cal Newport, who's written extensively on the topic of time billing, and his motivations behind the technique, he said, some people ask why I bother with such a detailed level of planning. And my answer is simple. It generates a massive amount of productivity. A 40-hour time blocked work week, I estimate, produces the same amount of output as a 60+ hour work week pursued without structure. So it really does create more time in your world to when you're focused on what you're doing and you've got that time blocked off. Okay, let's talk a little bit about creating project timelines and budgets when it comes to time blocking. So in the world of project timelines and budgets, when we create those, we want to make sure that we define clear roles and responsibilities for each project so that nothing's missed. We want to make sure that we share the estimated hours per room with the client. And we want to create a schedule of meetings in advance with clients. And so these are all the meetings. This is something that I love talking about during our VIP experience. When you can go through and look at the milestones of a project and already have those meetings set, it's setting deadlines internally for your team. And it's also setting deadlines for the client to know, hey, we're going to need you to be here. We're going to have some decisions. We're going to have progress reports for you. And also, it allows you to set the expectation up front with the client that, hey, these meetings that we've got set aside for you in the next 6 months or the next 12 months, you're going to need to set aside at least 2 hours minimum so that the client really understands the time that they need to dedicate to that project as well. And then you go from there in breaking down what you need to work each week once you have those milestones set for the meetings. Um, who here uses a project management software? That's also a great place to be able to start laying this out. Kathleen, I know you love Asana. That's a product that we use in our business as well. But if you can, I have a lot of designers that come through our programs that are really have awesome spreadsheets. And I mean, you guys know how to make awesome spreadsheets. We do that too in our business. But there is a time and a place for project management tools such as Asana. There's a lot of different types of project management tools. I'm going to talk to Asana just because I know more about that. I've been using that for the last 10 years. But if you can find a project management software that's inexpensive, it's easy to use, you can get basic project tasks in, you can create templates of repeatable things like a repeatable template for onboarding your clients, a repeatable template for this is all of the things that we take into consideration for a master bath project. Um, and then um, and then you can get more advanced from there. But that's very helpful to in the delegating of these tasks and keeping people accountable to the timelines that are set for the budgets. Okay. Next up, let's talk a little bit about finding the leaks for billable income. Um, there is one question on here. Does Studio Designer have a version or does it integrate with Asana? I don't think that it does, but I will ask Alexia to kind of chime in on that one. I believe it's just two separate things. It would be so nice if we all had like just one stop. Studio Designer does so much for us. We talk about that in our business where we're like, man, if we had a studio designer that like we could just like log in and do everything, right? Let's see. Studio Designer has lots of project management tools, but doesn't integrate with Asana. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. But I think the biggest thing is getting out of just a spreadsheet and being able to put it in a place that can be shared and collaborated with other people. Oh, awesome. They also shared a link there as well. Okay. Any other questions on time blocking or project management software? If not, we're gonna go over into finding the leaks for billable income. Okay. So the first one is standardizing your time billing categories with definitions that are followed by all. This is going to help you with estimating hours per room per category. And this also helps with keeping your time billing easy for the client to read and to understand. Okay. So it really is less is more. Many firms track every little detail, which is great. But that if you put every little detail in front of the client, that really can backfire. So it's best to be descriptive, but not excessive with the words. And so think more of some firms send out like summary bills to offer and then offer the details of those summaries. So if you can say, you have standardized categories where they know what drawings mean, they know what meeting time means, they know what admin time means, and you give them those definitions, then it simplifies your time billing. And then it's important at the end of each project to measure billable hours compared to budget. And you want to look at calculating the hours per category to help with future estimating and red flag areas that can cause possible inefficiencies. And that's where it comes back to, like, it's so important to know what you're doing with your time and how long things are taking, so that then you can learn from each project on how to better budget and propose new projects. And it's also going to help you find red flags and areas of possible inefficiencies, okay, inside of your business. So you might see that somebody on your team is spending 3 hours on this loop every single time you have a client come through a certain part of the project, that, like every time there is an issue with the furniture that's delivered, it's this 3 hour loop of how they're going about solving that problem. How can you streamline that process and make it a little bit more efficient of a process, so that you're saving time both for the client and for your team member. The third one is review all project related tasks to see if there's something else that you could be billing for. So when you've been tracking your time and you can really go back and look at a project, you can go, oh my gosh, like Susie spent 14 hours on this, and the time that we had with the client, is that something that we could be billing time for, right? I have a lot of designers that come to me and they're like, gosh, I wish I could bill for expediting. Well, you should be billing for expediting. Okay. And so it's really important to be able to have definitions and to see how people are using their time, because there could be a leak. There could be 14 hours of billable time there that you're leaving money on the table. And then the fourth one is set a fixed amount of time for routine tasks. So an example of that is a client setup, right? Like, we have to set up the Dropbox folders. We've got to set up the internal Google Drive folders. We've got to schedule an onboarding. We've got to send out a gift. There's certain things that you have to do in that client setup phase. And so if you say, we have a process for that, and we know that client setup takes 1 hour every time we bring a new client on, or it takes 2 hours because we also are, you know, I don't know, producing our contract in a certain way. It's really helpful not only in the expectation of your team and, like, hey, this should only take you an hour. Like, this is a known, and it helps us put together our project budget. But also it helps keep them accountable to go, hey, like, actually you added like these other three elements to that client setup process, and it's taking me more time. Right. And so I need more time set aside for that. And you need to add that to your time budget. So I know I've been chatting quite a bit here. What questions do you guys have, if any, as we come through here? So Maria, oh, hi, Maria. It's great to see you. What are the categories we should consider when time billing? Okay, yeah. So design, project management, drafting, anything else? Well, Maria, we do have a list over in our VIP manual. Maria is one of our boardroom clients that I can share with you offline. But yeah, looking at the different categories of billable time versus non-billable time, that's a real thing, right? Like, we can't bill out all of our time, 100% of our time. That would be an amazing thing to be able to do. But if we can look at the things that are billable, such as meeting time, admin time, drawings, you can also break it out into the different design phases, right? Selections, reselections is important. Marian, I'll have to check on that. I don't know if I can share that complete list with everybody, because it was derived from one of our clients. But if at the end we're gonna have you raise your hand as far as like just being in contact with me and Pro Collective, and I can follow up with you on that. Yes, so Tabitha, you want to standardize your description that goes out to the client. So we like to do that in the letter of agreement, where you have a set, I don't know, 8 or 10 different categories, and then you tell them what the definition of that is. Here's what admin time means. Here's what meeting time means. Here's what travel time means, right? So that they understand that, so that then when they see those categories on your time billing, it's just easier for them to understand, and they can go back to that list. And there's less So there's less issue with like having everybody enter their time billing with the correct grammar, and having it in the right tense. It eliminates a lot of time of all of that, sifting through the time billing that you have to do. So you might have your team time billing, and then you have an overview of just these categories that the client is actually seeing for their time bill. Okay, awesome, Marion. And Tabitha, yep, a big time requirement. I know. And we have designers that come to us and they're like, listen, like we're 3 months behind on time billing. And we're like, okay, that's definitely a problem for your profit and your cash flow. We've got to get you back to getting your time billing out. Are you using Studio Designer? That's one of the first questions I ask. And two, are you tracking your hours? Like, how can we expedite this to get you back up to speed on your time billing? Because you're really doing your business a disservice if you don't have that income coming in on a monthly basis that is set and repeatable and an expectation for your client. Okay. What other questions do you guys have here? Okay, Studio Designer has some awesome, oh, I said awesome, excellent time billing tools to make sure every minute is accounted for. Awesome, that's a um, great list there. And I think also when we talk about our time and billable time and how we're using our time, right? If you can start looking at how many hours your employees need to target at uh, billable time each week and give them those targets to work from as a key performance indicator each week, that's really helpful, right? So if we look at some people call their work week 32 hours, some people call it 36 hours. For ease of just kind of normalness of how I look at it, I'm going to look at a full-time work week as a 40-hour work week. But if you can start giving targets for your team members on how much they need to be billable, that's also another thing. We did an on-site with a team last summer where we went in and we work with we interview each team member, and then we come to your business for 2 days and we work with your leadership team, and then we bring everybody together and kind of work through any issues that you're having in your business that kind of need to come to the forefront for everybody to be on the same page with. And I got a board up and I was like, listen, I'm going to put up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm going to put up 9 to 5. Okay. And there was a grid and there were sticky notes. The green ones were billable time. Those are time, that's time every single week that you need to be billable. The blue ones were non-billable time, right? It was admin. It was, taking a lunch break. It was things that just we can't build a client for. And that was a huge eye opener. It was like a group of like 15 people. And we talked about that because we're like, do you see all this green? There's a lot of green on this count on this week of how you need to block your time because you've got to be billable. And so when we look at a 40-hour work week and we look at the efficiency or the targets that your employees need for billable income, they really should be trying to hit 70%, if not higher. Sometimes it depends on the position. It might be hard for them to hit 60 or 70%, but at 60%, that's 24 hours a week. Okay. At 75%, that's 30 hours per week. We have some people that are billing, their billing efficiencies at 80 or 90%, which is 32 or 36 hours a week. 90% efficiency on billable time, that's 36 hours a week that they're billable, and that's only 4 hours out of those 5 days that they're not billable. That's incredible, and that adds to the bottom line of your business. Let's see here. We got a couple questions here. Do you bill per minute or in 15-minute blocks? I would not suggest billing per minute. I would do 15-minute blocks. It's just easier to track and easier to kind of round up, if you will. And then Andra, as a CEO, what should we be billing hourly? I can't give you a billable rate, but I think as an owner, you really are probably coming in closer to 50% billable because you still are the rainmaker, right? You've got to be doing marketing, you've got to be bringing in the business, and you've got to be managing the team. And so if you're able to do 70% billable, Andra, as an owner, that's pretty impressive, but there's probably something else in your CEO role, like marketing, that is not happening as much as it needs to be to keep your pipeline full. Okay. All right, well, keep those questions coming. Let's see here. I do have a couple things to, and again, if you think of some questions, let me know. I just thought I'd bring up that the next thing that's coming up for Studio Designer as far as the Work of Design Live, the next one is on March 20th, and that's going to be an interactive workshop with Sandra Funk. And then what's coming up for Pro Collective next, we actually have a live event that we do in Denver for 2 days. We do it a couple times a year. And that's May 18th through the 19th. And so that's where you can talk about pricing and money conversations. We talk about a cash flow plan, marketing strategies, and also Gail and I do some laser coaching on your biggest challenges in your business. And so at the end, I know Alexia is going to put up a poll if you're interested in hearing from us or you want more information about the next workshop. And so just raise your hand and let me know. And I'd love to get in touch with you about that.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, a quick poll is going to pop up on your screen in just a couple of moments here. If you're interested in learning more about how Studio Designer can support your business, any of our time tracking and time billing tools or project management things, or more about Pro Collective's coaching services, as well as upcoming events, please let us know by responding to this poll that you should be seeing on your screen. And feel free to keep the questions going for Erin.
I mean, I blazed through that like way quicker than I thought. So I'm happy to answer some questions for anybody else that has them. You know, I think that what I can speak to is when it's easy to get overwhelmed with life, right? Like we're moms, we're daughters, we're business owners, we have partners. There's so many different things that we want to spend our time, and we only have 24 hours in a day. And so if you can do yourself a favor and look at, okay, even when you're planning your year, you're looking at what's the most important thing to me. My most important thing to me is family time. Okay. So when I look at planning my year, I time block my year and I go, these are the times I want to take spring break off with my kids. I want to be off with my kids for 2 weeks in the summer. I want to take them skiing, you know, when we have our first snow in Colorado. And I block off those times and share that with my team. And then I start looking at, okay, so when are our events that we serve our clients? When am I teaching VIP experiences each month? When am I doing our boardroom retreats? When am I, and then I start looking at industry events, like what industry events do I need to be at for my role in what I can do for the business? I'm going to High Point Market twice a year. Am I going to KBiz? Where am I using my time for those industry events? I lock those in, right? And that's just like a bigger picture way of time blocking as far as how you want to use your time. So then when you come into the month and you go, okay, well, what does my week look like? Oh, well, gosh, Erin's going to be out for 3 days to go to Design Edge Scottsdale. So that's going to be a week that her time is going to be spent a little bit differently because there's travel and different things. Okay, well, I got to block out what's happening with my kids, right? That's my first number one always. And then I've got to block out what needs to happen that week inside of our team so that people are informed and they can keep working and working and producing on our projects and for our clients. And then I start looking at, okay, well, what projects are coming to the finish line? What projects need to get started? And so you keep using that time blocking, whether it's overall for your year of what's your priorities and what's getting scheduled in and kind of sifted out through your year. What's important for your week as far as your direct report meetings, your client meetings, your billable time. And then what's important for your daily, right? Like, I know I need to get these 5 things done today. Like, how am I going to block my time to make sure that I not only get my billable time in, but I'm also getting my marketing time in. We suggest 10 hours a week for marketing, which feels like a lot, but actually adds up pretty quickly each week. So yeah, any other questions? All All right. Well, I appreciate you all being here today. Definitely go back to that usage on your phone and see, think about how you can maybe cut an hour off of that Instagram time, or maybe you have a favorite app. I know my kids love to play certain games on their phones. That, it's unless you're just trying to waste time, like how can you peel off an hour and go, hey, maybe one of the boundaries I'm going to put is that I'm not on my phone, starting at 8:30, like an hour and a half before bed, so that I can save an hour and a half and use that for reading or use that for time with my family. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Excited to see you. Oh, I do have one more slide here, just on thank you for attending. So if you want to check out Studio Designer, you can go to studiodesigner.com. And then also for Pearl Collective, we have a podcast. And so I just put our link up here to our podcast. If you go to thepearlcollective.com and you click on our tab podcast, or you go to Creative Genius Podcast, there's awesome information over there. We're posting all the time. And that link to Rob Cresack is over there. Might have to dig a little bit because it was a couple of summers ago, but it's great information. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.